we do the underwriting of debt as part of the typical underwriting. That goes to what's part of the special sauce, what the sponsor wants to set as part of their checklist, right? Some sponsors want to do 65% LTV, some may want to do less, some may want to do more, some pardon me, may want to do interest only, more bank oriented, agency oriented. So what we've started to do is we'll do the underwriting as part of the process, but if our clients want us to actually go out and source the debt, we will do that as well. So if we're doing the underwriting and the client, the sponsor decides to move forward, enters into a PSA, and we start the due diligence, if the sponsor wants, they can contract and engage with us to, in essence, be a debt broker as well. What does that mean? That means we will reach out to 100 banks. We'll reach out to 50 other firms. We'll fill out the questionnaires, the checklists, provide all the information that a lender would want to do their underwriting, right? And their due diligence on the sponsor and the property. Same thing. We charge again 1%. So it's a way we make money, and we have relationships with hundreds of these lending firms. Many are private, private funds. Several of them are, many are banks, and obviously we have access to the agencies as most places do. But it's just a matter of let us do the work, the process, because what happens so often is a sponsor may acquire a property once a year. That means once a year they're actually working with lenders speaking a lender language, and lenders have their language, just like environmental researchers and firms will have their language, and architects have their language. If you don't understand the language these firms are looking to hear, they sometimes can get, especially for the lenders, can get scared very quickly, especially when these sponsors are using the wrong words or sponsors are explaining things incorrectly. So we just know the language. And when you understand the language and the culture, we understand how to fill out these applications correctly. We understand when the bank or the private lender really needs that specific information, where half the time a sponsor may say, I don't want to share that. And we understand why they need it. We also understand in what format it should be, right? So we understand what personal financial statements are supposed to look like, what you're allowed to include, not include. Because if you do this incorrectly and you get a preliminary approval from, let's say, a bank or a private lender, those firms, even though they'll give a preliminary approval, still go through their own due diligence and their own approval committee. And if one little thing is wrong, not only will they reject that, but you'll be, in essence, on the list. You'll be on the list that next time you go, they're going to remember and look at their notes of, well, we asked for a PFS and they were overstating their PFS. Or we asked them to understand exactly how much they were going to need to renovate and do the value add, and they said they don't worry about things like that. And so these, while may not be as important to a sponsor, are critically important to the language and the culture of the lender. So we understand, and we can help translate, and we can be a guide, a Sherpa into that world. Same thing. If we're successful, we charge 1%. If we're not successful, we get paid nothing for our efforts, and we're fine with that. They're institutional quality. So lenders just want institutional quality. Investors want to know that their sponsors are operating institutional quality, and the sponsor sleeps at night knowing whatever the work product, the end result of work product is institutional quality. Does it mean that the property is good? No. Does it mean that people may not have found something as part of their due diligence, part of their research? No, those things happen. But when you can make it institutional quality in the process, institutional quality in the people involved, institutional quality in the work, the outputs, the work product, then at least people sleep at night knowing that everything that was supposed to happen happened, and you're not living and dying or depending or hoping based upon the individual perception or individual approach of one sponsor, but really upon more of an institutional approach. I want to make it quite clear again, but the critical part of this is the sponsor creating their factors that are important for them of what they want to see in their modeling that goes to create the pro forma. Pro formas are standards. They are standardized. And if they're done correctly in a professional manner, a lender can look at that and accept that on its face, right? Prima facie. What's most importantly for the sponsor, though, is for them to understand that when we find sponsors that may not even understand their own factors, we can help them brainstorm. We're not going to solve it. We're not going to tell them, but we can help them understand in a room, saying to them, these are the typical things that other sponsors do. What's important to you, right? Here's what other sponsors are concerned about. Are you concerned about this as well? And here are the way other sponsors may look at these types of deals. Would you like to look at it the same way? At the end of the day, the sponsor owns their intellectual property. And as in the case of one of our bigger clients, which is Rastegar, that intellectual property is very important to them because it is the ability for them to look at a large number of potential acquisitions and very quickly understand which ones really will fit into what they feel would have a higher probability of success.